What is the most powerful trait we have? You need power, speed. Let your imagination do the rest.
Undisputed, the Mexican Monster Pack out now.
Boxing King Media, delighted to have Mr. Teddy Atlas all the way from his home in New York, joining us today to talk about a big boxing weekend. But first of all, as always, Teddy, how are you? How's your health? Are you all good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Nothing to complain about. I'm blessed. I have a good family. I have four beautiful grandchildren. A friend of mine said, Teddy, if we knew they were going to be this good, we would have had them first.
That's quite a good saying that. And as the weather improved in New York, because I was there last week, it was so hot and muggy and
It's horrible. I mean, it dropped a tiny bit, but it's not the heat, it's the humidity, like they say. It's so sticky. Yeah, we've had 90, 95-degree heat. I'd rather be in Las Vegas with 115 because at least it's, as they always say, it's dry. Over here with the 70, 80% humidity, sometimes it's dreadful. It's not good. But it also, just a thing like that you don't even, you just complain about it. You forget how blessed we are. We go into air conditioning, right? I mean, there was a day where people didn't have air conditioning. We're complaining. There was a time our parents, our grandparents, they didn't have any. They didn't have any of those, resources. Any of the benefit of going into an air conditioned room. They had to deal with that all day long and work hard jobs and sleep at night. I know a little bit about that. When I was up in Catskill, all those years with Customato, fighting at first, and then, of course, as a trainer, we didn't have air conditioning in the house. I remember being upstairs in the top floor. Heat does rise, by the way. It actually does. I'm proof of that. We're all the way up on the third floor, and we had a big giant room that I shared with Kevin Rooney. He was on one end, I was on the other end, and for 6 years, during the summers, it was hot. It was hot. But the reason I say that is, again, even now, even in today's age, there are people out there that don't have air conditioning. I run a charity foundation, 28 years now. We just help people. We help the people that fall through the cracks, have nowhere to go, get them from point A to point B, whatever it takes. And I can't tell you how many elderly people in the city were in different areas, whether it's the Bronx, whether it's Brooklyn, we will get requests from 80-year-old people to get an air conditioner. They don't have an air conditioner. Just a simple thing like that. It's not a big deal. We do it right away. We go and we get them an air conditioner.
what is the charity organization? Because if somebody wants to help out, I'd love to put a
It's
link
the
up or
Dr.
something for
Atlas.
you.
It's called the Dr. Atlas Foundation, and it's
Doc,
it's up on the internet. But
I'll
well,
put
I
the
mean,
link up in the comments if anybody wants to donate to that. Dr.
that's
Atlas
nice of you.
Foundation.
No, that's very nice of you. Very kind of you. But I'm not mentioning it for that reason. I appreciate it. But I'm just saying the reason why I'm mentioning it is that, again, we started talking about the weather. You're a gentleman. You said, "Hey Teddy, how you doing? How you feeling? How's your family? How's the weather over there?" And there's people that, where we complain right away. I complain. I said, it's muggy. It's this. It's that. It's horrible. But I'm talking to you right now. I'm not sweating. I'm in an air conditioned room. I'm blessed. But there are people that are sweating, and some of them aren't so young, where it's as easy to tolerate. You know, so again, you get reminded of how fortunate you are in simple things like this. That, as I just said, there's people right now in the city, many more than people would ever dream, that do not have air conditioning and are not at a young age where they can tolerate it, that easily. So yeah, my foundation, we've been around 28 years. We run a food pantry to feed families. We feed 1,500 families a week. But that's just one of the many things. Again, we're no better than anyone else. We're no worse. We just help people that need help. It's pretty simple. We deal with a lot of situations with no fathers. That's a problem. That's a problem in the world. That's a problem in this country. That's one of the biggest problems that people sometimes forget about or don't talk about or hide from, whatever. I don't know. But I'm not hiding from it. We're in the middle of doing something about it and dealing with it. And it's real. We're going to the different areas where they have a lot of problems, and there'll be a lot of single moms. And it might be a single mom in the projects with 5 kids. One of them is an invalid child, a paralyzed child. And the child's getting to the age where it's very difficult for her to bathe them. So she needs a handicap bathroom. She don't have $10,000 to get a handicap bathroom, and the insurance don't pay for it. So, we do. We put it in. It also
Yeah.
might be, similar stuff like that. And we also bring these mobile units, mental health units, into at-risk areas where we bring psychiatrists, psychologists, mentors, anti-bullying, anti-drugs, anti-suicide. We'll bring them into those areas in mobile vans where they'll be available to offer help, to offer programs to the people that need them. And then there's, again, whatever it happens to be. We had a mom not too long ago that she's got a bunch of kids, again, single mom, but she's working, she's trying, she's taking care of the kids, and one of them got sick, so she's out of work for a while. She wound up getting evicted from the apartment and put into a city shelter. The city shelters are violent. That's just a fact. And they're not good. So one of her children, it turned out, is autistic. It was an 11-year-old girl, and she had an episode. The environment changed. The environment was what I described. It was violent, and she had a terrible episode. So they had to get out of there. She didn't have the money to get an apartment. To get an apartment, maybe it's $3,500 to put up the first month, the second month, whatever it is. That might as well be. I mean, that's an impossible number for her, even though for a lot of us it's not. So the foundation takes care of it. We get an apartment, but again, we're not paying for a year's rent. We're paying for 2 months. That's all, just till she gets back on her feet. We help get people from point A to point B. No, like I said, just we do a little bit. But
Well,
anyway, let's talk about let's talk
well,
about let's talk about hair transplants. Let's talk about that right now.
well,
Let's-
that it's great to hear the work that you're doing. I know I'm not going to stop you, and I would urge anyone if they want to support Terry's foundation, please do hit up the link that I'll have in the comments, because what you just said there is a beautiful explanation of how you're helping people. So we will encourage that. I will help you any way I can. I want to jump onto the boxing, Teddy. Obviously, big fight week, big fight weekend, and I saw your prediction, and you expected a hard fight for Alexander, but you said he'll find a way to win. But it seemed quite an easy night. I just want to talk to you about some of the key points that have come out from the fight since. I understand you've seen the video of a pre-fight gathering that it's been described as, and I want to highlight the fact that Team Dubois did the same for the Anthony Joshua fight, and they felt that he gave Daniel confidence and
They
in
did it
good.
in the locker room, though. It's a little different, right? From what I'm
No,
told.
no, no. They did it. They did it in the house, so it was something
Oh,
similar. Okay, but apparently it was a bit smaller that time. But this time it was a bit bigger. They had some Nigerian actors that turned up at the event. Obviously, there was music playing, etc. But they felt that he worked the first time. It'd work again. I want to ask you about that. What you think of that, and also from your experience, have you come across, like, I know you worked with Mike in his early days, in amateur days, but Michael Moore, etc. If they ever had anything that was similar to that pre-fight where that helped him get him in the zone?
no, 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 nothing like that. Nothing close to that. I'm not knocking anyone because listen, they got him to a heavyweight title twice, right? they got him in that position. They won some big fights against Joshua, against Herjavec, against Miller. He redeemed himself. He came back. He showed heart. After falling apart in Joy's fight. I know he had a broken orbital bone, but still, he wound up submitting in that fight. He wound up submitting in the first Usyk fight. I know the low blow controversy. I get all that. But the bottom line is the bottom line. He wasn't there at the end. He gave in. And then he came back with the Miller fight, the Herjavec fight, the Joshua fight. He redeemed himself. He found himself. He answered questions. He got answers to questions that he didn't have, that he could depend on himself, that he could, that he could overcome something. That he was tough, he showed that. Look at all the right hands that he ate against Herjavec. Look at the way Miller was a son of a gun. 333 pounds of him. I don't care. He kept coming. And the reason he kept coming like that, he thought he was going to wilt him. He thought he was going to break him down because people broke him down in the past. But he didn't. He didn't give in. He was a different guy. And I say it again. I stand by what I say. I don't give a damn what happened now. I'm talking about then. I know what I saw. I know what my experience told me. I saw a guy that would have fought for nothing. Maybe the people around him wouldn't have. Maybe his father wouldn't have. Maybe John. But I really believe that he would have fought the Miller and maybe the Herjavec fight for free, because he wasn't fighting at that point for a purse. He wasn't fighting for, a column, another W in a column. He was fighting for his pride, his soul. He was fighting for his existence. He was fighting for the right of Daniel Dubois to feel like a man, to look in the mirror and like what was looking back, to walk down the street and have his head up instead of having his head down. That's what he was fighting for after those other debacles. And he showed that by fighting the way he fought, overcoming the pressure in the Miller, dealing with the pressure in the Miller fight, overcoming the right hands in the Herjavec fight, being what he was in the Joshua fight. He was dominant in that fight, but he had a spot there. He got caught a right hand. He overcame it. You could see it. You could see that nothing was going to deter him, but you didn't see that. I don't think I was wrong. I think that the guy did become a different guy. And I thought the potential for a more dangerous fight was there because of that with Usyk. It turned out that I still don't think I was wrong. I think that he was a different guy. But it turns out I was wrong with it being a more dangerous fight. Obviously, that danger was taken out of it by the way that Usyk performed, and the way that Dubois. I got to be fair about it. I stand there and tell you when I'm right. I got to stand there and take what comes with my prediction being wrong. My prediction wasn't wrong. I said Usyk was going to win. I'm never going against Usyk, one of the great winners of our time. I'm never going against him. Never. It's not just because of the talent he has; it's because of the character he has, what he stands for. And that's deep. That's deep. That is strength. Real strength. That ain't the strength you find in the gym. That's the strength that you find in life. By choices, by decisions, by what you believe in. And also attached to the Ukrainian plight, the Ukrainian country, the Ukrainian people that were invaded in this war. That he's a symbol for them, a symbol of strength, a symbol of just hope. That they look at it, that with all the things they're going through, they look and they say, the heavyweight champ, Usyk, that's our guy. He's strong. We can be strong. And that is, there are fighters in the history of this sport that have attached themselves to countries, to people, to plights. Ali in his way did. Pacquiao in his way did. Canelo, maybe in some ways with the Mexican people, has. There have been fighters that have done it. I don't know too many that are attached to it the way Usyk is, but it is in the history of our sport. But the bottom line is, he did redeem himself, Dubois. He had become a different guy. But on this particular night, I think there was other things in play too. He was robotic. It was like there was no, it was robotic. There was no thinking. There was no technique. There was, just coming forward. I know he's an aggressive fighter. I know he's a good puncher. I know he's thick boned. And he is. He's all power. He really is genetically. He's all of that, Dubois.
Based on that, Teddy, what you said there, he was robotic and he wasn't fighting how you'd expected him to fight. Could the factor of what happened pre-fight, obviously, like I said, the gathering was something they've done before, and they felt that would give him confidence. But he also arrived at the venue quite late. He arrived at 8:16 p.m. and the ring walk was at 5 minutes past 10. So he literally had like an hour and 45, hour and 50 minutes from arriving at the venue to walking out to the Lion's Den.
Yeah, listen, you're asking the right questions. You do a good job. There's a reason why you have a respected platform and a watch platform. You're asking the right. You're a gentleman. You know boxing. You're passionate about it. You're a good journalist. You're a good interviewer. You're asking the right questions. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not. I'm not forgetting what they did in the past to get them to where. I'm not that guy that forgets what you did for me yesterday. I try to never be that guy. I have to, no, I'm not saying you are. You're asking the right question. But I'm saying that there's too many, I've been through it too much. There's too many people out there. You could do a million things for them. And then the one thing you don't do for them, you're no freaking good. Well, what about the freaking last 10 years or the last 5 years when I did this and this and this? But no, they forget about it. What did you do for me lately? I'm never going to be that guy because I hate that. Because that is something that I have felt in life. I think we all have. We've all, if we're going to be honest about it, if we've had any kind of life where we've had to go through things, we've all witnessed that. And I've made, for me, a sort of a pledge. I ain't going to be that guy. I'm not.
On that point, one of the things
I know what you're saying, but I'm not.
On that point, I've got to highlight that because obviously we've seen the dad get some stick about the whole pre-fight stuff. But I was speaking to your son earlier, and I did say to him, despite that, the dad has still got him in that 2% club,
100%.
which is a world champion and a multimillionaire, and it's very slim to the point you just made there.
Give Don Charles some credit.
Yes, 100%.
I mean,
and I highlighted this before. He was trainer of the year.
Frank Warren credit.
Yeah, Don was trainer of the year one fight ago.
But listen, everyone has to be tested in life. Fighters have to be tested. Friends have to be tested. Wives have to be tested. Husbands have to be tested. Workers have to be tested. You don't know till you know, until there's a test. And the reason why I give these men credit is that not only did they get there, when they came up short in those two losses, and everybody was against Dubois, nobody had faith in him. They still had faith. They still stood by him. You know that old saying. You find out who your friends are when it's raining out. Not when the sun's shining. When things get tough, that's when you find out. And that's why I say, and I talk the way I talk, is that Warren, Charles, the father, obviously, they stuck by him and didn't lose faith in him when there was it was pretty easy to lose faith in him. And a lot of people did after those fights. So what I'm saying with you, and I want to answer your question properly, I wouldn't have done that. But that doesn't mean I'm not there. I don't know the kid in the way they do and what worked in the past. I'm not there. I'm not privy to that. I wouldn't have done it. But that doesn't mean, and again, are we making excuses for him? Are we taking away from how good USYK was and what USYK is? Are we doing that? We're walking a fine line here, because it starts to sound like excuses more than anything else. At the end of the day, one guy performed and executed, the other guy didn't. For whatever reason. It worked for him in the past. That's what you told me. I didn't know that he had a past in the Joshua fight where he did this. and it worked for him, or they thought it worked for him because they were successful in the fight. But you know what I would say to that? All right, if it worked for him then you say, okay, they had a reason to believe that it was a positive thing, not a negative thing, if that's the truth. I'm just going by what you're telling me. But there's one other part to that. It worked for him in the Joshua fight. Guess what? I got a news memo. Usyk ain't Joshua. Maybe that's the one thing we should be talking about. It worked. And I'm not knocking Joshua. He's had a tremendous career. Tremendous. Gold medal, world champion twice. He redeemed himself. He showed something coming back after getting knocked out by Ruiz and winning the title a second time. He showed what you want people to show, what champions, the quality of being a champion beyond the boxing technique, beyond the boxing IQ, but beyond the power, that they're able to come back. They're able to overcome something. And he did that, and he showed that, and he gets credit for that from me. But at the end of the day, again, you gotta, when I say robotic, the reason I'm saying robotic, I don't know if it was attached to that. He's a guy, there's something different about him in a way that I was watching a weigh-in. And at the weigh-in, for me, I always say the first fight is to stand down, before you get in the ring. Actually, there's 3 fights for me. And I've been around 50 years. First part is making weight. The second part is to stand down. And then, of course, the fight. And of course, the most important part, preparing in the preparation for the 2 or 3 months, whatever you're spending in camp, whatever your length of camp is. And all the things you go through that we're not privy to. And you don't know how that influences a fight. And it does. It does. You don't know if a guy got sick. You don't know if there was a situation. There's so many things you don't know. We wouldn't even have known about this party if somebody didn't post it. We wouldn't have known about that. But
correct.
At the end of the day, you got a situation where you got the weigh-in, and I'm watching the weigh-in, and you got to stand down. Now, Dubois broke off. Sometimes that means something. Sometimes it does. But look, I'm not gonna put too much emphasis, but I am gonna note it. I will note it. Usyk ain't breaking away. Usyk's staring at you. The weather's gonna change. The seasons are gonna change. Leaves are gonna start falling, and he's still gonna. You're gonna have to carry the guy away. I mean, that ain't happening. That's it. Dubois broke it off. Okay, for me as a trainer, as a guy who deals with the psychological as well as the physical and the technical, there's 3 dimensions. There's the emotional, the psychological together. There's the physical preparation and the technical part of how you're going to use your physical skills, how you're going to use that physical preparation, that training and everything else. Just like having power. I always talk about it on my podcast. You have to have a good delivery system. It's not enough to just have power. You have to have a proper means to get it to the target. Usyk showed that in the counterpunching. But going back to the weigh-in, I saw some. I talked about on my podcast. I saw some. It's the day before the fight. You don't want to make too much of it. But I'm looking at him, and he breaks off. And then it wasn't even that. You know what it was?
Uh-huh.
Go look at it. He was so uncomfortable. Like he broke off and went. And then Usyk does his thing. He just does his thing. And it's natural. It's real. He believes it. He's not playing to the cameras. And he does this, and he's there. Part of it is attached to his country, to history, to tradition, but he's standing there as this stout champion. And all of a sudden, I'm watching Dubois, and it's like Dubois realizes that he got left behind. It's like he realizes he broke off, and now this guy went in front of him. So he goes, he gets up, and he tries to go in front of him. And it's like he's uncomfortable. It's like he don't know what to do. It's like, so he tries to go in front of him, and then USYK, it don't matter. USYK's presence, just his real presence. He just like that. And then he looks at USYK, and for a second, I'm almost sure of this, he looks like he wanted to start a confrontation. Like he didn't know what to do. It's almost like, should I go back to the stand down? Should I now stand up? Should I now confront him? Should I now do something, more aggressive? Did I lose the moment? Like he was lost. He looked, I said on my podcast, he looked like when I got grandchildren and you bring them all to a party and you got 50 kids in a big place in a party, and some of the kids are playing and all of a sudden they get left. And then you got a little kid walking around, he's trying to see, and he's left, and then he's upset because he doesn't know where to go. Where do I go? Do I go over here? I got left alone. He looked like that kid who got left alone in the party. He was like he didn't know what to do. And I'm looking at him and I said, there's an issue here. He's uncomfortable in his own skin at times. He's uncomfortable with moments. And then fast forward that to the next day, he didn't look comfortable in the ring. He looked like a guy, robotic. Again, I'm going to use the word robotic. There was no plan. The plan was to go forward and land the right hand. You have to have a better plan than that. You have to have a better plan than that with a guy like USYK. Usually you got to have a better plan than that, period. But you do get away with it sometimes. Maybe he got away with it. He did walk through, a lot of people could say rightfully so. Teddy, he didn't have a plan against Hrgovic. You know what I would say? Yes, he did. What was it, Teddy? He ate 1,000 right hands. He kept walking forward. I'll tell you what his plan was. His plan was to freaking conquer the guy. That's the plan. His plan was to break the guy down. His plan was to get to the guy. His plan was to keep going no matter what. And he was going to freaking land on Hrgovic, who of course is not of the ilk and the talent, the skill levels of USYK. But he did have a plan. He had a determination. That was part of the plan. He had a set course of what he was going to do. This night he looked like the guy on the stage the night before that didn't know what to do. He looked like the kid at the party who was lost. Like, what do I, and I'm not knocking him. I admire him for what he's done and the way he's come back in his life. I admire that. And I give him credit for that. But I'm doing my job. I'm pointing things out from my eyes, from my.
Why do you think that happened, Teddy? What do you? Because this guy, he headlined against Anthony Joshua, potentially a more high pressure fight, and he absolutely smoked Anthony Joshua. But what do you think went wrong in this?
I think I described it. I think that first of all, you can't get away with just walking for. He got away with it with. I don't want to diminish what he did. It worked for him against Hrgovic. It worked for him against Joshua. He was able to, for the most part, walk forward and conquer the guy, defeat the guy. You can't do that with a counterpuncher. You can't. A counterpuncher needs something to counter. A counterpuncher makes a living off of aggression, reckless aggression, uneducated aggression. That was reckless, uneducated aggression. That was almost desperation. There was a difference in the Joshua fight. It was like Like he knew he was going to land the right hand. He used the jab a little bit. Bam! He was set. He brought his feet. This was more like, again, being lost. All right, I'll try this. It was more like desperate aggression. He reached in. What's that saying? When everyone tries to talk with these commentators, they try to sound real great. He was over his ski. He was on his front foot. He was on his back foot. What the frick are you talking about? Front foot, back foot. He reached in with the right hand. he didn't bring his feet. He got top heavy. But the bottom line is, he got reckless. There was no form. There was no proper technique. But it starts up here. It's not even here. Everyone thinks I'm talking about it shows here that he reached in, he got top heavy. He exposed himself. He didn't bring his feet. He didn't come behind the jab. All of that. But it's here. He wasn't doing that in the other fights. It was like he was more desperate. He was lost. He was the same guy. I was seeing the guy I saw on the stage tonight. I know no one else saw that. I don't care. I was seeing the guy I saw on the stage. I don't know why. I can't tell you why. I'm a half a psychiatrist, but I'm not a full psychiatrist. All I know is that he wasn't the guy mentally that was throwing a right hand in the proper way, not just technically, but in a proper way mentally, where he was committed to landing it. Like he knew he was going to get there no matter what. This was more desperation. This was more like, I'm hoping it lands. I'm hoping that this happens, because if it happens, I'll get out of here. And again, he wasn't comfortable in his own skin the night before. And I think listen, I can't describe it better. I know exactly what I'm describing. Hopefully people can get their head around it a little bit. I know it's different than what they thought. They just want to hear what they're comfortable hearing. Oh, this, and X, Y, Z. Yeah, it's X, Y, Z, but it's also this. It's the mental part that's attached to it that allows the X, Y, Z to exist, to happen or not to happen. At the end of the day, you're fighting a guy who's counterpunching. You know where the fight ended? The second round. He didn't get hit. It ended in the second round. It was over. He reached in with right hand. Again, he just reached in. There was no jab. There was no feint to make the counterpuncher. I'm fighting a counterpuncher. I'm going to feint him, make him show his move. Too soon, fade him, make him show the move too soon, and then I'm not going to walk into the trap. Then I see what I have to do. Then I see, okay, he stepped back. He tried to get me to reach in. Now I'm going to step in. Now I'm going to slide to the side. Whatever. But what I saw in the second round, to me, was the fight. I'm watching the fight, and I told my son, I said, this fight's over right here. My son said, what do you mean, Dad? I said, he just reached in with a right hand. He didn't get hit, but Usyk saw it. Usyk put it up in the computer. Usyk was like the spy planes. You see those spy planes, the pictures, and they're taking an overhead, an aerial shot down below of a compound that they're going to bomb. That they're gonna, and then they send the B-52 bombers in an hour later after seeing the picture, and they know exactly where the spots are that they want to hit. They know where all the weak spots are. They saw the picture, and now, okay, Frank, okay, get ready, come in. Here's the coordinates. This is the coordinates. 8340. Okay, we got it. And they come in, bang, bang, bang. That's Usyk. He took a picture in the second round. He saw it. He said, I got him. I wouldn't be surprised if he went back to the corner and said, I love Usyk. I can't help it. He would have said something like this. I have him. Yes, I have him. I give me time. Give me a moment. I have him now. He saw, I know, as a trainer, I saw it. I know as a fighter and the kind of fighter he is, he saw it. And he put it in his head, and sure enough, a couple rounds later, same thing. He reaches in. Same idea. Go look at it. Same thing. He reaches in, but this time, he doesn't get away with it. He doesn't get a free pass. He doesn't get that whole pass they talk about in the movies. You give a guy a whole pass. He doesn't get a pass. He gets hit with a left hand. And the fight is basically over.
What did you make of the corner dynamics? Again, it's worth highlighting that this has worked for him for the last 3 fights, which has made Don Charles the British Boxing Board Trainer of the Year. Unfortunately, as you know, when it doesn't go your way, people highlight everything. So this has been a big talking point about in the corner. Daniel's constantly looking at his dad for instructions, and
It's always been that way. I can answer that. I was there in Saudi Arabia when he fought. I was there for all those fights. You were there.
Yeah.
You interviewed me there too. You interview me everywhere. You interview me there too. And I always say yes to you because you're a nice guy, a decent guy. I'm going to tell you the same thing. I saw in Saudi in the Herjavec fight, he was right in front of us, was sitting there first row. He was right there, and his corner was right there. He kept looking at the father. Everybody was saying, he's not even looking at Don Charles. He's looking at the father. The father's telling him stuff. And everybody's giving everything. That's going to be bad. That's going to be terrible. That's wrong. That's this. That's this. And what happened? He goes and he stops Herjavec. So people stopped talking about it. They were like, okay, well, all right. It's as long as it's working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And then all of a sudden, it don't work. Now, everybody's saying, oh, but it's nothing new. And this is the way he is. He obviously, his father is obviously a dominant force in his life. What else can I say? That's obvious. You don't need Teddy Atlas you don't need Sherlock Holmes. I know Sherlock Holmes is big over there in England. You don't need old Sherlock to tell you that his father is a dominant force in his life. And everything that means. You figure it out. I ain't here to figure it out. But that is obvious. That is something that's not arguable. That is something I think that we've seen. From what I heard about the day of party, same thing. That wasn't Daniel's idea. The father wanted to do it, it gets done. And the father has done things, obviously, that have been good. And this turned out to be one that maybe it wasn't good. I don't know. Again, we're walking a fine line here because I don't want to blame it on that and take away from a man named USYK, who had a lot to do with it. So, but we're laying it all out there. We're dissecting everything that's there to be dissected. At the end of the day, only God knows and Daniel knows.
I spoke to Spencer Fear in the aftermath, and he suggested that you'd be a good addition to the team if the dad wanted to bring more people in. And obviously, if that happens, would you happily work with Don and the dad, etc.? If you're obviously because of your experience, would you be willing to be part of the team?
Listen, I haven't heard anything about that. I haven't heard anything about that. I haven't given it any thought at all. Don Charles, I think, has done a really good job. I don't want to take anything away from that. He's done a good job up to this point. He's helped get him back after he was in a bad place, which should never be forgotten. But right now, first of all, I don't even like to contemplate it because I don't train guys. When I do come back, if I ever come back again, I've come back. My family is asking, okay, Teddy, they're like that. In the last 12, 13 years, whatever it's been, you've come out of retirement, whatever you want to call it. You've come back 3 times every 4 years. You came back 12-year, whatever it was, with Povetkin. You trained him, you won the heavyweight title. You left for 4 years. You came back, trained Timmy Bradley, all good people. I don't train people if I don't think they're good people. Forget about the status and the boxing ability and where they are and how large the fight is. They're not good people. I'm not going to camp with them. I don't want to be around people unless I feel they're quality people. I want to be around people I like. I don't want to be in camp. I'm not going to be in camp marking days like I'm in the can. Okay, there's another day off the calendar till I get paid. No, I will only train somebody. There's got to be a couple elements. I have to like the guy. I have to be around someone who I think is a decent person. I said that already. I have to believe I can help them. No matter what it is, no matter what the purse is, no matter what else, that doesn't come first. First thing is, can I help him? Can I improve that guy? Do I know in my bones I can improve that guy? And then the last part is, it has to be someone who is willing to be improved, willing to allow themselves to be told things that they may never have heard before and things they may not want to hear. Is he of that personality? Is it a person that can control their ego after they've been successful, maybe, and be able to listen to somebody that's going to tell them things that someone with an ego might not want to hear, to tell them things that need to be told, but are they willing to listen? Are they willing to make themselves coachable in that way? And having said all that, whenever I train a fighter for all the 50 years I've been in this business, I'm the trainer. I'm in charge. And that's a problem for some people. That's fine. But again, I haven't even given it any thought. And I have no reason to give it that. But I know when I do things, I'm the trainer. When Cus D'Amato brought me up as a trainer, I remember Cus saying, there's no two voices in the corner. I see sometimes with two people, I'm like, what is that? Like, I still to this day, I'm like confused by it. Like, if you're the trainer, you're in charge. Oh, you got to be the dictator. Oh, you got to be the yes. The answer would be affirmative. Yes. If I'm the trainer, I'm the dictator. If I'm the trainer, I'm in charge. Because at the end of the day, you're going to get some of the credit, but you're going to get all of the blame. All of the blame. So, yeah, you're going to be in charge. I remember Bill Parcells, the football coach, great football coach, Hall of Famer, good friend of mine, big boxing fan. And he comes to all my foundation dinners. He would come. He's getting older now. But good guy, good guy. I remember him telling me his first couple of years with the New York Giants, he was this close to getting fired. And he told me, you know why I was getting fired? I was this close. I was going to get fired. I was in my last year. And because I was doing what other people wanted me to do. I was letting other people get involved. I was listening. I wanted to be a nice guy. I wanted to, I was allowing other people to voice their opinion. He said, when I realized I was about to get fired and I had one more year, I sat down with myself and I said, I might get fired, but if I get fired, son of a gun, I'm going to get fired because of what I want to do. I ain't going to get fired because I listened to him, or I cared about his feelings or his feelings. No. I'm going to freaking get fired or keep my job by doing what I think I should do as the head coach. I'm the boss. I'm the dictator. And he was telling me, he goes, you remind me of that. I said, well, I don't know any other way. call it again. I remember when I left Michael Moore, when I didn't train him for the second Holyfield fight, and I love Michael, but Freddie Roach stepped in. I remember the press, people get around you, what's the difference between you and Teddy? And he said, well, Teddy was a dictator. I'm not a dictator. Well, okay, but I didn't think you. Someone said, "Oh, he called you a dictator." I said, "So what?" I didn't feel hurt. My feelings weren't hurt. I made the freaking reporter almost fall down when I said to him, "But I am," and he looked at me and goes, "You're admitting that you're saying that Freddie was right?" Yeah. When I'm the trainer, if you want to call me a dictator, I don't call myself a dictator, but if you want to use that term, that I'm the one in charge, I'm the one voice, yeah, you would be correct. That's why that's why you called the trainer. That's why they came to you. That's your job. That's not a job of committee. No, there's one person in charge, and he's going to take the blame at the end. He better make sure that it's done his way.
That's a good detailed answer there. I've got one last question for you, and this has been another big talking point. Carl Froch, Tony Bellew, and Dave Allen, they've all been adamant and running the story that they feel Daniel quit, and that's their words. Bit harsh, based on the fact that that punch he took from Alexander Usyk knocked his gum shield out. So I dread to imagine how hard that impact was. But either way, they've been saying that Daniel quit and he should have got up and he should have gone out swinging. You, as a trainer, as a boxing person, what's your observations of the ending of that fight and them comments and their views of it?
They have the right to say that. They all have walked in those shoes. Which three was it? Flock? Who else?
Carl Froch, Tony Bellew, and Dave Allen.
All of them have walked in the shoes of a fighter. They have the right to say it. I think somebody who's never walked in those shoes doesn't have the right to say it. They have the right to say it. That's all I say. It doesn't mean they're right. It doesn't mean they're wrong. It means for Teddy Atlas, they have the right to say it because they have gone through something that 95% of the people higher than that in the world will never go through and would never want to go through. Would never want to go through what goes into not only getting in the ring and dealing with the punches, but walking out of the locker room, walking to the ring. That walk can look like the last mile before you go to the electric chair. People, how many people could deal with that? Not too many. Not to mention, then you got to go up those steps. That's like walking out on a plank, and what the pirates used to do. That ain't easy. So they have the right to say it. They have the right to say it. I'm not saying I agree in this particular case. I think the other night, on the same night, I think as much punishment as he took, and he's a gallant guy. But I think Tim Tszyu submitted. But that was easier. He said it. The commentators, I'm going by with the they were there. I wasn't there. I didn't hear it. But the commentators said twice. They said, the referee asked him, do you want to continue? He said no. So it doesn't get plainer than that. That gets very plain. The rest is speculation. They're speculating, but they have the right to speculate because they've been there. They have the right to speculate, but they're speculating. I'm not, I see why they're saying it because when he counted 10, he was struggling to get up, and then once the referee got to 10, he got up, he stood, and it didn't look like he wobbled, and he walked right past losing. I understand the visual. I do. How can you not at least whether you disagree with what they said or you don't. But if you disagree, how can you not at least say that visual is something to be answered to? It's something that would draw speculation. It would draw those thoughts.
In
And,
that
and
in that moment,
but
I forgot to
I've seen
mention.
guys walk. I have seen guys do that though, where they're out of it, and people say, "Oh, he's fine." No, he ain't fine. Where he's come back, I've seen it. Where he's got in the gym, I've seen it. Where he'll walk right to you, and then I'll look at him and say, "That's it, we're done." He's well, what? We're done. You could see it that even though he walked fine, he ain't there. He ain't
Don,
there.
Don Charles threw the towel in before he got up, and also the referee waved it off. That's another key factor as well. So before he got up, it was waved off, and the towel was thrown in.
Yeah, so it was a moot point. I mean, it was stopped. And look, he might have seen that too. You know, he might have seen the towel go in and it's over and he's walking to his corner. He knows like it ain't even his like it wasn't even his choice. He sees the towel, it's over, okay. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna go to my corner and go home. So again, those guys have the right. They say something, I listen. I give them the. I say okay, but I'm not saying that. I'm not ready to jump on that because of what I just said. Because you're still. I know what the visual is leading you to. I understand that, but I've been there just like they have. I've been there beyond the visual. I've
You've
been there.
seen,
I've been there with the where I've seen the guy where the guy, you know, really. I had a fight at one time, fighting a fight. Won't get into who, but it was a fight. It was an international amateur fight. It was an international amateur fight. Top guy, top fighter. He later on turned pro. And actually, it was a long time ago. I'll give another hint. It was against the Irish team. We won, by the way. We won. But anyway, it was a guy I loved Irish. You know, I loved England. I had the greatest fans, great fans. Just like the Mexicans are great fans. There's so many great fans out there. But I'm the trainer, young trainer, and I got him fighting in this international fight. And he gets dropped in the first round. Good guy was a good puncher, strong. Gets dropped, but I knew he got dropped, but he, you know, when you play something off, you know, the good fighters, the tough fighters, the real fighters, mentally, everything, he played it off. He jumped up like it was a slip. The referee didn't know. So the referee got kind of conned into it. He didn't count it as a knockdown. But I was in the corner watching. I saw him get hit. It was a knockdown. But he was able to get up and make it look like it was. So the referee didn't see it. He was in a bad spot. So the referee called it a slip. But it was a knockdown. All right. Gets up. I tell him what he did wrong. We go, long story short, 3-round fight, 3 3-minute rounds. The fight's over. He wins. He outboxed the guy. From that point on, he boxed brilliantly. Brilliantly. He hardly got touched. Boom, 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 side, in and out, side to side. Really nice boxing. Fight's over. He comes over to me. He puts his head down like towards my shoulder. And he whispers to me. He says, "Did I get knocked out?" True story. See, people that haven't been in this business, they don't understand this business. They don't understand those elements to it. Those 3 guys that made that statement, they would understand that. That's why they got the right to make a statement like that. But he says to me, "Did I get knocked out?" And I looked at it. At first, I'm shocked. But then I started realizing, you know, I fought myself. But I started realizing he got knocked down and he never fully recovered. He got concussed. He boxed brilliantly, but he was almost on co-pilot. He was out of it. He was semi knocked out. if there's such a thing. And he never, the only thing that kept him going was this, that he knew he had to get, like he found a way to keep going, which special guys do. He kept going, like he was on co-pilot, but he had been concussed. He didn't remember any of the fight, any of it, except the first part of the first round. That's the only part of the fight he remembered. So I went back to, I talked to Cus D'Amato about it. Because I was training fighters, I was with Cus. And I was training all the fighters. So when I got back up, when I got home, where I lived with Cus, I told Cus about it. And Cus said, he was out on his feet, but his training, obviously you talk about conditioning, all that stuff, but his training, his mental set mind of a real fighter to always keep going, to find a way to keep going, to, he was able to keep going. He was physically, obviously able to keep going. Kind of like a football player that they used to, in my day, I remember I tackled a guy, his thighs were bigger than me. His thighs were like this. They were like freaking tree trunks. And I went to tackle him low, and I got, I didn't know I was concussed. Back in those days, they didn't do nothing. They just said, "You got your belt wrong. Go take a walk. Come back in a minute." And then they put you back in the game. They didn't know. Obviously, I was concussed. You know where I went after I tackled the guy? I walked to the wrong sideline. And the coach of the other team had to say, son, you got to go over there. Where do I have to go? You got to go over there. Your guys have the red uniforms. We got white uniforms. You got to go over there. So I realized after I talked to Cus that he was able to keep going. And Cus made a point to me. Cus said, Teddy, in some ways, what you just described, that this guy boxed beautifully after that, in some ways he was relieved of all his inhibitions. Listen to this. It's kind of like a guy that has to have a drink to say what he really wants to say, that it frees him up. When you have to drink, now he's going to say things he was inhibited about saying. He would never say. When he gets hurt, he no longer has the things that you're thinking about that's holding you back, that the fear of this, the fear of that, the inhibition of this. You're just doing things. And in some ways, Cus was right. He was just doing all the things that I wanted him to do, that he did in the gym. So the point I'm making with that story, and I thought it was a relevant story, is that there are elements to this game that people that haven't been in it will never fully understand. And that, so Dubois could have easily been in one of those states where, he got hit. There's no arguing that. You could argue, could he have went on? Could he have done it? You could argue, like my guy kept going. But what you can't argue is he got hit. And there's a good chance he was concussed. You get hit like that. So, and it's a good chance when he walked right past USYK that he was in half of La La Land. What can I tell you?
I've got one quick one for you. If Daniel Dubois, Don Charles, the dad are there in front of you right now, what advice would you give them based on what people are saying about them now as a team? People are forgetting the success that they've had. People are raving about Daniel Dubois. A lot of people said he was going to beat Alexander Usyk, but unfortunately, the way it's ended, people focus on the negatives. You, as a man of so much experience, what would you say to all three of them right now?
Go win. Go win. Winning cures everything. Get it together, stay together, support the fighter, support each other, and then when it's the right time, get back and go win. And everybody will forget about it.
Can't get any more simple than that, Mr. Teddy Atlas. Genuinely appreciate your time. It's been a great hour listening to your epic breakdown. I wish you all the best, and I will put the link for your charity foundation and the work that you're doing. I hope people can kind of support that as well, helping mothers in need, people with disabilities, etc. From a variety of things, from helping them with aircon to maybe their weekly shopping. I hope people can support that for you, and I'll have the link in the comments. Thank you very much.
The most powerful trait we have. You need power, speed. Let your imagination do the rest.
Undisputed, the Mexican Monster Pack out now.